the Borders Good Food Partnership. So we can go to the next slide, please, then. This is what's happening over the borders. It's a little bit different to the presentations earlier because this is our sort of borders-wide initiative. So this is what's happening in the borders at the moment. There's lots and lots of food conversations happening, and for all sorts of different reasons, community food growers, there's farming networks, there's work going on in the NHS and in the borders. What we're trying to do with the food partnership is, if I can show you the next slide, is to bring some of these together. What the food partnership should do is really act like the sort of mycelium of mushrooms. So we're trying to work to connect all of the different groups together so that we're having this bigger conversation about food. And so that's what the partnership, so it doesn't exist as a separate organization. It's absolutely a partnership that includes all sorts of people that were already having these conversations. So that's why I said at the start of the meeting, it's included Ivan, who's just left us, Sarah and Roddy from the council. It involves people from the NHS, from farming networks, and we had one of our first sort of exploratory meetings, if you like, on Monday in Gala, and there'll be another one in Duns on Tuesday of next week. So why are we doing this? So if you can go on to the next slide. We're doing this because the Good Food Nation Act primarily, and the Good Food Nation Act is a piece of framework legislation that the Scottish Government put in place last year. And the intention is that Scotland is a place where we can all take pride and pleasure in and benefit from the food we buy, cook, produce, serve and eat each day. That's the sort of the top line. So if you can go on to the next slide, please. And these are the aims: that everybody has access to nutritious, sustainable food. And the Scottish Government works with businesses to help connect people to high quality locally produced food. And it goes everything from farm to fork and beyond to draw together different policies. So as you can see from that, they're very broad aims, and it's very much a framework piece of legislation. So if we can go on to the next slide, please. These are the 6 outcomes. And this is, I think, where it starts to get interesting from the place planning point of view, because none of these different things can happen unless they happen in a particular place. So, for example, the first outcome, everyone in Scotland eats well with reliable access to sustainable, affordable, nutritious food, which is also age and culturally appropriate. You can see how that would tie in locally to access to food. I've had from different place planning, it might be that somebody says, well, what do we want here? We want more restaurants, or we want more food, we want more hospitality, we want those sort of things in the area. So that sort of feeds into that. The food system needs to be sustainable and contribute to net zero. So again, that sort of ties in with some of the farming issues that may exist in and around places. You know, we're a very rural region in the borders, where the food system encourages you to be physically and mentally healthy. Again, as we've got a sort of aging population, we've got people, the sort of recovery from COVID hasn't been as quick as we'd like in some, not sort of some regions, but maybe different age groups, different members of the community. And we all know about the sort of epidemic of diabetes and diet-related illnesses that might be affecting different local communities. Also, Scotland was having a thriving food culture with the population interested and educated about sustainable food. So again, that's very much place-based, what the culture is in the region as a whole. And one of the things that we've done to help facilitate that as a partnership is we've created something called the Foodscape podcast. And that is looking at how food shapes lives and landscapes across the whole of the Borders region. So Charlotte, who's been presenting that on behalf of the partnership, supported with funding from Abundant Borders through Scottish Communities Climate Action Network and the Scottish Borders Council has been to St Boswell's March. She's talked to farmers. She was at the Kelso Potato Day, really trying to get stories from across the whole region as to what food looks like now, what it might be, and how it might look in a particular place. So she did an amazing interview with grocers who had been in Selkirk for generations and looking how that had changed and how Selkirk had changed, how the high street had changed, all related around to food and the culture of food in the borders. The next outcome is Scotland, where decisions made at national and local level contribute positively. And I think, again, this is why this is particularly pertinent, and we're having the sort of the food partnership discussions at the moment, is because as part of the Good Food Nation Act, there is something called the National Food Plan. And the consultation of that has just finished, and the consultation outreach in our region was at Gala a couple of months ago. What will happen this time next year is the Scottish Government will have to publish the National Food Plan, and that sets the clock ticking at a regional level, because SBC and NHS will have a statutory duty to produce a regional food plan. And it's important that the regional food plan reflects what we want in the region. So regional food plan needs to be something that not only represents the sectors, the sort of food processors, the food producers, the individuals. It needs to reflect the place as well, and how that might fit into the place planning process. So this is another driver of the partnership at the moment, is so that we can all work to support what SBC and Sarah and her team in particular, and the NHS through Jenny Reid and her team at the NHS in producing a regional food plan, which will hit these 6 outcomes. Excuse me. And I think that the final one is a Scotland where the food sector is prosperous and where we've become food secure and food resilient. So again, that links into local place plans and how that might work, and create and sustains jobs underpinned by fair work standards. So again, this is where the regional food plan and this whole partnership process might work into your regional, your local place plans and place planning process. So I know I was saying to Beth, I would deliberately keep it to less than my 10 minutes, because I think there's a lot of questions. It's very much a sort of borders wide initiative, but it can only work if it works for local places and local people. So this is why I thought it was useful, even though we're not talking about a specific place and talking about what is happening in a particular area. It is really important. A lot of the places represented in this room, if I put my Abundant Borders hat back on, we have community gardens in quite a lot of areas across the borders now. There are 8 community gardens, for example. So they're very much based in their place and of their place. And we work very closely with the community larders in that place. So I think food is something that we all eat. Everybody, it's a bit like education. Everybody has an opinion, because everybody's been to school and everybody eats. So it's something that can really bring everyone together as a way of being a thread through place plans. As Ivan was saying before, it can be something that can, if you're looking for something that you can bring people together around, particularly the places that have community larders. For example, this might be knowledge of what is coming down the line in a regional food plan in such a rural area as the Scottish Borders. I think could be a really important, interesting element in the regional place planning process. So that's the end of my slides. You'll be glad to know. So yeah, they're the contact details. But I think you probably all know me. You can contact me through Sarah and through Beth. if there's anything that comes up going forward, but more than happy to take questions just now.
Thanks so much, Karen.